Welcome to another Spaduti Fitness podcast. I'm your host, Brian. I'm here with my co-host, Beth. Before we jump into today's podcast, Coach Beth's going to take us through a few announcements.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back to our Tuesday night podcast. Don't forget, we are now live. The Spaduti Fitness app is now on the Apple and Android platforms. So make sure that you jump on, download it, start up that free account. And on the app, you can check out some of our awesome virtual drop-in classes, such as butts and guts, morning mobility, functional fitness, SF rebounding, and SF30 to name just a few. SF30 is one of our all-in-one packages that offers accountability, nutrition coaching, and fitness, all wrapped up into one. But that's it for tonight. So I'm going to turn it back over to Brian to get us into our guest tonight, because I can't wait to get this one started.
So today's podcast, we are talking to an individual who has over 38 years of experience in the fitness industry, over 29 certifications, currently pursuing his master's in exercise science, co-founder of the Drug-Free Athletic Coalition, and owner of Fitter Tactical Training, Rich Fitter. Welcome to the podcast, Rich.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited for this one. So can you give the people out there a little bit of background about yourself before we jump into different topics?
Oh, okay.
I know. With that intro, I know with that intro, it's like, well,
I'm a Virgo. I like long walks on the beach. No, I absolutely love this industry. It was the first job I had out of high school was actually paving, and I did that for 4 days, and I realized that that's not something I wanted to do. I would much rather spend time in the gym. It was air conditioned, and I could wear sweats to work every day, and I didn't get my hands burned with hot asphalt. So back then, if you were if you looked the part, if you were Johnny Bravo and you fit the suit, they gave you the key to the gym and they made you a trainer. And that's kind of how I got my start. I was reliable enough that I showed up on time. I didn't do stupid stuff in the gym, and I read all the muscle magazines. So that got me my first job as a trainer. And I'm lucky I didn't kill anybody.
Right.
Because you start to realize, it's the at any stage of your life, you don't know what you don't know. And everything that I thought that I knew from reading Muscle and Fitness and Flex and all of those magazines, the fitness world is so much more than just that. And that's when I started to realize that I needed to get some formal training and to kind of look outside of the Weider principles for just becoming better at what I was doing. So that's that led me to I got certified through the American Council on Exercise. You start going to some conferences, and you start meeting some of the industry's experts. And I think anybody that has a passion for fitness has probably followed this road where you just you find out that there's so much more out there, and you just become a sponge for knowledge. And that kind of led me to from one certification to the next, going back to school, getting involved in I was involved in powerlifting in the 90s, and then natural bodybuilding in the 2000s. I've owned a gym. I've written about 300 different articles for a number of fitness publications. Some were good, some were not so good. Some I look back and say, what was I thinking back then? Some I'm actually kind of proud of, because I'm like, oh, I was right back then. So it's kind of like it's all the whole process has just been it's one big learning experience.
I love that you said that too, especially how you go back and say like, oh, wow, I can't believe I wrote something like that. Because I feel like as professionals in this industry, we tend to, hear a little bit of information, and it's kind of like, oh yeah, we really live by that. And then sometimes the science will come out and tell us a little bit something different. It's like, wow, I really didn't I didn't know the best part or the best way. And it's so great to hear that to hear you say that, because we are not perfect. And continuing education and being able to get better in our field is what's more important.
Absolutely. Science is ever changing. Things that we we thought by looking at it one way, or running an experiment in a certain way, and then we realized maybe there was flaws in the experiment, or maybe there was flaws in the design, or we didn't use a large enough sample, or we looked at a problem one way when we probably should have been looking at it another way. And you kind of have to have that accountability to say, you know what, I was wrong about that. This is really what the evidence tells us. And it's part of evolving as a fitness professional.
Yeah. And it almost goes to us, like when I say I like nerding out with you guys, like to us, it's like, yes, I love being wrong. I love learning something. I don't want to know everything. I don't want to be the smartest guy in the room. Not that I am by any means, but like I love learning and love, experimenting with different things and the why behind it. And I think that does go a bit underappreciated in the general public.
There's two things that I think come to mind, and that's one, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you have to find a different room.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
You've got to find people that are
Mm-hmm.
are going to challenge you, and kind of the best teachers that I have are the ones that were hardest on me.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't just they challenged me to be better. They knew that if the work that I was doing was not up to what I was capable of, I didn't get a great grade on it. And I had one Dr. Sherbel, Dr. Corey Sherbel. He's fantastic. He had said, you get the grade that you earn. And if he saw like my work was, it was passable, but it was not up to what I was capable of doing, he would mark me down, even though the stuff was right, because I wasn't pushing myself to be better. And I'm forever grateful for that. And then the other one was, I forget exactly who said it. And it's before you start thinking outside the box, you better really study the box.
I like that.
And I think that's, you've seen it in our industry, probably as much as any other industry, where you get people that they want to put their own spin on things. They want to come up with their own system or their own way of doing things. And, they want to be known as that out of the box thinker. And they're missing like so much of like the foundation or the fundamentals, or, stuff that's just, they could have done it much simpler. They didn't have to make it so complicated. And that's, it kind of bothers me a little bit.
Does that fall under the tree of the word I believe you coined years ago, which is exertainment?
Exertainment. It's I would rather be a fitness professional than a fitness influencer.
Yes.
And that's not a knock against anybody that wants to go down that road.
Right.
But I don't.
There's just such a difference.
It's huge.
Such a difference.
It's one is a career, and the other is more, I guess, of becoming a celebrity. And I don't really want to be a celebrity. I'm looking at this has been my career for the majority of my life, and I still have miles to go and stuff to learn and things that I want to accomplish. And I don't want to get sidetracked by getting caught up in the social media circus.
Do you find balancing a business and social media? I don't know how active you are on social media, but do you find balancing a business and then trying to be entertaining on social media, or like posting or doing things like that? Because I know what you're saying, where people will come up with a method and you're like, that's not really an effective method. You just threw a name on something and you're doing something different but not really effective, but they sweat a lot so they think it's good, but it's not really doing what you think it's doing. Do you get what I'm saying?
No, I definitely, I agree with that. I think that kind of goes back to Um, I mean, you have fundamentals. You have things like, squats and deadlifts and bench presses and things like that. And I think people um, almost try to invent exercises.
Yeah.
Because that way it looks new and it looks cool and it's, it's the flashy new toy that draws everybody. But is it more effective than, some of your traditional exercises, or is it necessary, or is it, is it really doing your clients the best service?
Well, you
And I
even
think,
said something just a few moments ago, fundamentals, like that hit home. I stick with that as much as I possibly can. It's the fundamentals that are really going to give people results. Like you said, the TikTok influencers. I was at the gym the other day and I saw somebody doing something, and I asked her, I'm like, hey, can you tell me about what you're doing? And she's like, I don't really know, but I saw it on TikTok, so I'm going to do it. And I'm like, okay, and I wanted to say like, hey, I can really help you with, I'm like, hey, what muscle are you trying to work? And she was like, I don't know, but I feel it all over. And I'm like, I'm going to walk away because I'm just going to walk away. So
bite your tongue a little bit.
So it is like that reinventing, just trying to do something because I saw it on social media.
The wheel works fine. There's no reason to reinvent it.
Yeah. And that's where I was going with the posting on social media. It's like, it's tough at times because like Beth and I will post, like we always post about stuff. It depends. Hey, should I do this? It depends. Well, I was listening to this person and they said I should do it and we should all be doing this. It's like, well, it depends. Like it depends. I got to know more about you. Like you can't just watch a 30-second video on TikTok. Like we have like 4 pages of health history we need from you. Do you know how to do this? What's your training age? What's your nutrition age? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it's and I'm sure that you've both seen this in the gym, and I've seen this in the gym where somebody comes in and says, I'm looking for a trainer, and the person says, oh, I'm a trainer, and immediately takes them out on the floor and just puts them through a workout. And there's no evaluation, there's no medical history, there's no taking that time to, do you have any injuries? What are your goals? What have you tried doing? What have you? And I think that because, if you speak confidently and forcefully, or you act confidently and forcefully, people automatically assume you're an expert. So rather than taking the time and asking all these questions and getting into these discussions so we can really, better serve these people, the person that grabs them and immediately takes them on the floor and shows them what to do without any knowledge of, of their past or their goals, that person looks more confident. Because they've immediately made that decision. They've brought that person out onto the floor and they've started a workout, and the person is like, oh, we just dove right into our workout. This was great. Okay, well, I'll just wait a little bit, and when your knee starts bothering, I'll do the corrective exercise for you. It's and the same thing with the diet. Like how many times have you heard people just throwing out random advice of like, well, just don't eat carbs?
Oh my gosh, I can't even with that. I know.
Yeah. Or if you're a woman, what's 1,200 calories?
Yeah.
What? Who pulled that number out? Like, where'd that come from?
That's sad.
Yeah, so there's so much of that. And then, the other thing is and this has also bothered me with the industry. So while we're all venting here.
Yeah, let's go.
There's the acquisition of knowledge. There's a lot of knowledgeable people out there. And, maybe they don't necessarily know how to apply that knowledge, so they read something and it sounds good and they go and they kind of throw it out there and it sounds technical. They sound like an expert, but it's totally not appropriate for what this person is asking or what their goals are. Like, how does that really fit in? And then you could take that even further, that you have the acquisition of knowledge, you have the application of knowledge, but then you also have the communication of knowledge, being able to kind of break it down to the person that you're working with, so it doesn't sound so technical or it doesn't sound so scary, or, that they can kind of understand it, give them an analogy rather than all of the technical terms. And maybe that'll help them, like, oh, okay, well, you've taught them something, because I think as trainers, we are teachers,
right, 100%.
I've seen too many trainers that kind of like try to dazzle people with knowledge and almost make them dependent rather than teaching them.
Oh,
Mhm.
yes. And that's something
Yeah.
Brian and I talk about a lot. Like our goals are not to keep you forever. Like that's not our goal. We want to give you the strategies and the skills and learn how to maintain your end goal moving
Mhm.
forward. That's, at least for myself, that's one of my biggest goals for people. And I want them
Yeah.
to learn. I want them to be able to take the real life experiences and take it with them.
Yeah.
Wherever they go.
Yeah, I mean, it's I've been blessed. I've had clients that have been with me for years, just because, I guess they like me, you know. You know,
You're doing
but
something right then, because they want to continue to work with you and they want to surround themselves with the people that support them, and they obviously are learning. And if they're learning something, that's why they're staying.
yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, I think that's a great point of they're looking for support. Like you get some people that they want to learn how to do stuff, and that's when you become the teacher, but you're also part of their support system,
Yes.
because maybe they've learned stuff from you, maybe they know how to do it, but maybe they need that support of, having you there in the gym. Otherwise they
Yes.
wouldn't go. Or maybe if they hit hard times in their life and it becomes like easier to just skip the workout and
Yeah.
go home and make bad decisions. If they know that that somebody is waiting for them that cares about their wellness,
Yes.
it's money well worth spent.
Yeah, they have someone in their corner,
Yeah.
when they need it. It's so important.
Well,
Rich,
it's
you
tough in
said,
this Amazon Prime world because everybody wants everything right now. And,
yeah,
it's just not like that. It just doesn't take
Body
that
on
kind of,
demand.
it's not like that.
body on demand. Rich, when did you own a gym? Where was that? What was it called? When did you open it?
It was a small personal training studio. It was Fitter Fitness, and it was in Cedar Knolls, New Jersey. It was just outside of Morristown, New Jersey.
Okay.
And my first year I did really well, really well. My second year, I got caught in a divorce and back surgery.
Hmm.
And one of the things I've learned over the years is, just because you know the fitness industry, or you're an accomplished trainer, or what equipment to pick for your gym, it doesn't mean that you understand business. And I was not prepared business wise to go into business for myself. I don't, I'm not good with spreadsheets. I'm not good with projections. I'm not good with, all of these things. And I always just figured, okay, well, as long as I can train people, I can make money. Like, you tell me what my monthly bill is, I'll do X number of sessions and we'll be good. And then I got hurt. I was involved in powerlifting in the 90s, and I got hurt and I needed that back surgery. And that set me back, and I couldn't train clients. First time in my life, I'm like thinking like, oh my God, I actually physically can't get up and go to the gym and train people. And I was the income, so without that, and then, things didn't work out with my first wife, and, divorce is expensive, and it kind of all hit at once. It wasn't something that I had the foresight to plan that, okay, if I can't work, or if there's extra expenses, or, all these things, I can still keep the gym going,
Yeah.
and that was where I didn't have the business savvy.
Gotcha.
That's some nice equipment though.
So at the time you owned the gym, you were powerlifting? Was that when you were?
It's powerlifting led me to bodybuilding. I've always been a bodybuilding fan.
Mhm.
I just didn't think that I could ever, put on the size, or develop the physique that I needed to. I didn't think really I had the great genetics for it. So I started, and of course, like when in the 80s, there wasn't the internet. And all of your information was either from the biggest guys in the gym, or from Joe Weider's Flex magazine. So I'm doing all these routines that are driving me into the ground. and I'm overtraining and I'm under eating, and some personal stuff going on, and I got mono my senior year in high school. And I dropped about 11 pounds, I think, in the first 2 days. And I couldn't work out for a while. It's my spleen was enlarged and I was sick as a dog. So I read my first nutrition book. And then I realized that, you have to eat. You have to, you have to fuel your body. And I started looking more into some of the high intensity training. And then from that led me to some of Fred Hatfield's books about powerlifting.
Mhm.
And how so many of the bodybuilders of yesteryear, I always wanted to say that word, yesteryear, they built their foundation with powerlifting. So that's what I did. I started doing that. I started looking more into like the abbreviated routines, stuff by Ken Leisner, stuff by Stuart McRobert was another big influence. And then Bill Starr. Bill Starr kind of really clicked with his 5x5 program, and I started putting on size, and I started, getting stronger, and I built myself up bigger than I thought, I ever thought I could be, because I'm kind of I was a tall, skinny kid. I was like 6 foot, like 160,
Yeah.
and long arms, long legs. And I think the best thing I ever did was to focus more on the squats and the benches and the deadlifts and build that foundation. And then when I got hurt, and I, losing the gym was kind of good for me, because I realized that, the hobby of powerlifting, and the risk that it put my, I had knee surgery, I had back surgery, chopped the fingertip off in the squat rack once.
Oh, geez.
Yeah,
Oh,
that was a little icky.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And all those things, like, okay, well, now this is impacting me financially. And as much as I love doing it, I need to find something kinder and gentler. And I built up the size through powerlifting. I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to diet down and see what I could do. And, I wound up doing some natural bodybuilding, for a few years after that. And, I'm like, oh, wow, it kind of came full circle. So.
And you learned most of that from reading and educating yourself.
I did. I had a learning disability growing up, and I was kind of told that maybe college wasn't in my future. I did look into Kelly Kowalski's Institute of Professional Wrestling.
We were back in school. Oh.
But
Really?
I
You can't skip over that.
What's that?
Wait a minute.
So, all right. So when I was a toddler, my dad was teaching my brother how to chop wood, and the axe head flew off the axe and it hit me in the head.
Really?
I don't remember it because I don't remember anything from then. But it damaged the part of the brain that controls sequencing and patterns and like order and so if you gave me 5 steps and they said, this is step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, I would do, okay, well, step 1, step 4, step 5, step 3, step 2, and because I couldn't figure out like the order that you wanted me to do it, or they would be teaching us how to solve problems in school, and they would give me step 1 and they would do 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm sitting there staring at step 1 trying to figure out like how to do step 1.
Wow.
Because it was like it was almost like they were talking like like Latin or something. So I joke around in 3rd grade I had to go to remedial time telling. They had this big clock that it was they would say like, is this quarter after, is this half past, is this quarter of, whatever. And I couldn't figure that out because I didn't know what a quarter was or a half was or 3/4 was or any of that. So, they would take me into the back room like while everybody else had like free reading period, and they would have this big clock and they would make me do it over and over and over again. So remedial time telling. But you know, the thing is, and this is, I think this kind of helped me as a trainer too, because not everybody learns the same way. And that was, I needed to find a way that, you know, that I could learn. You know, I wasn't
Right.
being lazy. I had teachers telling me, oh, you're lazy, or, you know, I had one teacher just telling me that I just wasn't very smart. Which is kind of like, yeah, you don't really want to say that to a kid, but you know, that was kind of rip the Band-Aid. But I needed to learn how to learn. And once I learned what my learning style was, and how I could, you know, how I could excel in school, you know, it's been a great experience. But that's also true, I think, when you're in the gym and you're showing people how to do an exercise, or you're telling them how to do an exercise, or you're cueing, or you're, you know, not everybody understands, like, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, like what you want them to do. And you have to figure out, do I have to demonstrate? Do I actually have to, you know, move them through the exercise? You know, do I have to do a combination of these things? You know, because again, I go back, we are teachers. So
Wow. What an experience to go through, to have to figure that all out and then to figure it out for yourself.
it's, you know, it's it's been kind of a long road, but I mean, it's right now, I'm absolutely loving it. And I've honestly, the last few years, I've had some amazing teachers that, there's so much more now for people with learning disabilities than there was when I was growing up. Because they would, you know, when I was in some of my special ed classes, all they would do would be, they would give you the same work, but they would say it slower. And it's kind of like, you know, I don't know if you're a fan of Taxi with Reverend Jim when he's taking the driving test, you know, and they're like, you know, what does the yellow light mean? And they're like, slow down. And he's like, what does the yellow light, you know, slow down? What does, that was, you know, that was me. And that was,
Right.
you know, because I, you know, you can give me the information as slow as can be, and I'm still not going to get it, because I'm not learning. I'm not learning anything, because you're not matching my learning style.
Yeah.
So
I think that's huge. I'm the same way. I was in special ed growing up pretty much my whole life. And then it's like, once I figured out that, oh, when I'm able to stand up and interact and I need to be stimulated while I'm learning, I'm much better than just sitting me in a chair and Bueller, you know. And again, if I have a question about something you said 2 minutes ago, don't go on, because I'm stuck here.
Yeah. Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not hearing anything else you're saying. You got to explain this to me. Okay, now I can go ahead and do the rest, you know? But you're right, learning styles is so true.
You know, and what's worse was, there were certain classes that I did really well in, because it was maybe it was like verbal, or you know, we would have discussions. Like my civil rights class, I loved, you know, because we would just sit there and we would talk about like laws, and we would talk about, like, you know, landmark cases and things like that. And I did fine. But then if you put me in a math class, or if you put me in chemistry or something like that, you know, that's when I would get accused of being lazy or not trying, because they saw you're doing great in that class. Why can't you do great in this class? And it's all comes down to what it is that they're teaching and how they're teaching it.
Absolutely.
You know,
so when you got into personal training, did you get, because this is a story I have too as well, but did you get pushback about it being a career when you first got into it?
There really was no personal training when I got into it.
That's my whole point.
It was the,
that's my whole point.
That was, and this is kind of, I try to give back at the gym that I'm at. If I see somebody that is struggling, you know, I'll just go out and I'll say, you know what, let me give you a workout, you know, because you're putting in the effort, but you're not going to get the results you're looking for, because, you know, the effort is there, but you need a little bit of guidance. And, you know, when I was first hired at the gym, you know, it was $5 an hour. And, you know, you were expected that if somebody joined the gym, you would write them out a workout. You would take them through the workout, or you would walk the floor, and you would, you know, hey, how you doing? Let me see what you're doing. And, you know, okay, well, you know, you want to try doing this exercise, you know, instead, you know, you were expected to do that. So it wasn't any any extra money. You were a trainer, and in some senses you were doing personal training, because I would have people that would say, like, if I show up at the gym at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, can you show me how to work out? That was part of my $5.
Right.
So a little bit later on, that's when, I started working at another gym, and they're like, no, if you do that, we're going to pay you, $15 an hour. It's like, tell me more.
Right. Right.
But I also think of, getting back to like the education, I've always, anything that I've made in personal training, I've tried to put back into, my own education, so I can be better and I can better service people, and I can grow with them. And I think that's important. I think that's the, that kind of goes back to the, you've got your training certification, or you've got your degree, or you've got your certificate or whatever. Now what? And the answer to that is keep improving.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that has been something with so many of our podcast guests that have been on, that has definitely been something I think all of us have talked about, is that continuing education and always wanting to know more, or coming across a client that presents something that we don't have an answer for. And then it kind of leads us into this new path of like, well, now I want to know, I want to continue now I have to figure that out because I want to help that person. And maybe I'll be able to help more people. So I find that we're always constantly trying to find ways to improve. And our clients are always helping us to move forward, to keep going on with figuring out and finding out new ways of doing things.
There's almost an expectation of it. And I think that's part of the passion. Part of the passion is you always want to learn something. You always want to, you don't want to be, king of the mountain. You always want to be climbing the mountain.
Yes.
I was just going to say something. I'm a professional wrestling fan.
Yes.
And I had this discussion with Mike Lepowski a couple of years ago, and I said, it's the fitness industry is very much like professional wrestling, and that's, everybody argues, you see it on wrestling, like everybody argues like whose finishing hold is the best. Like, is it the figure 4 leg lock? Is it the claw hold? Is it, so you get that in the fitness industry, with people arguing about the best diet or the best training program, or, is it linear periodization? Is it, conjugate method? Is it this? It's that? All of these, like, everybody takes stuff personally. And, I just kind of sit back with the popcorn and like, I read the comments and everything. It's just like, I have.
Well, what's your client's goal?
Yeah.
Right. What do they like to do? What's the
determine.
goal? What's going to get them from point A to point B, safely, and they're going to enjoy the ride. Because I think that there is something like that. Like, occasionally you get the people that's like, by any means necessary, and you can beat them up, and you can put them through these like hellish workouts, and they're fine with it. But that's like 1%.
Yeah.
Because if you're, if that's the type of training that they like, it's a very, very small, they're in a very small minority. Most people go to the gym, they want to feel better, they want to feel good about themselves, and it's your responsibility to deliver results and make them enjoy the whole experience.
Right. And I don't feel like there's many people that outside the industry looking in to the fitness industry realize that. They feel that it's, like you said, we've seen this on social media. So this is going to work for everybody. This is what I should be doing. And it's like, well, no, like, you need to work with someone to find out what is best for you. Yeah. That's, utilize the mind of the fitness professional to help you find what's going to be best for you, because it's so different from person to person.
Yeah, and you don't want that workout to become a stressor either. They're coming to you to help, relieve some stress and be it, create healthier habits. And you don't want to go to this, all right, I'm going to give you a 5-day, twice a day, heavy compound. And they're like, dude, I'm just trying to play with my kids in the backyard. And I don't want to do that. It's like, you know what I mean? I think but I think and this is something too, I think we've gone, and this was back in the day, it was the philosophies a lot where, did you throw up? Well, it wasn't a good workout. How sore are you? Like, we would gauge progress by how sore, or if somebody threw up, or I can't walk. And it's like, that's not really through the years. You learn, and you've suggested books to me with these things in there back in the day, was how to create proper programming for people. You know what I mean? Taking like volume, intensity, frequency, and stuff like that into account when working with people and setting a proper program.
Yeah, it's, I interviewed 15 years ago. I interviewed Dan Dalrymple, and Dan was the head strength coach for the New Orleans Saints, and I think now he's director of athletic performance for them. But I asked him, it was like, one of the first interviews I did, I asked him, I said, what's your training philosophy? Like, what type of work do you do? Do you do, like a West Side routine, or do you do like a high intensity routine? Do you do, what is it that you do? And he goes, I do anything that is going to help my players become better football players. And I'm like, okay, so it could be this, it could be this, it could be this. It's a big tool bag, and it's whatever is going to be appropriate for that person, he's going to utilize. And I thought it was a very simple, very brilliant, statement.
Yeah, and that's a lot when we do programming with clients. They'll say, can you write me this 12-week program? And it's like, how about we write you just something for this week and we assess it?
Yes.
Because things might change next week. Like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
But I think that's stuff that people aren't used to hearing at the same time. Or, do you know what I mean? Or how come I'm only doing this week? Well, you had a few weeks of, higher intensity stuff. We're going to pull you back. We're going to deload you, but I don't want to. Okay. And then it's like, no, we want to just give your body a rest a little while. We have everything logged here, what you've been doing. And I think, again, I think people don't appreciate it at first, but then because they have this like no pain, no gain attitude. And then when they realize, oh, wow, my joints and knees aren't hurting and I still made progress. This is great. Yeah, because of programming and monitoring,
Right?
Yeah.
Because there's a plan there.
There's a plan.
There's a plan, and there's also the adjustments in the plan as we go along.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas it's not about how many times do you look around the gym and you see people that they're just coming in and they're just exercising, or they're just kind of, they're doing stuff, and at the end of the workout they're sweaty and they're tired, but from watching them, there's no method to their madness.
Mm-hmm.
So really all they did was they went into the gym and they tired themselves out. They did stuff that's probably not going to help them reach their goals. And maybe they feel good about it, but I can guarantee they're probably going to be frustrated because they're putting in all of this effort and they're not getting the results that they're looking for. And that's where the planning comes in. That's where the programming of I'll map out for you exactly how we're going to get you from here to here. But along the way, if things happen, we may have to make these adjustments.
It's a movement with purpose. What are we doing? Why are we doing it?
Yes. I think that's hard for clients to understand. But like you said, the more educated that they get, the more that they're working with someone, that's where they start to learn those type of things. That's where that teaching comes in. This is why explaining it to clients too is so important.
Mm-hmm. Rich, I want to go back to you competing in your first natural bodybuilding show. What year was that, and how did you find it?
It was 37 BC. It was the Mr. Bedrock. Me and Barney and Fred. No, it was 1999 NGA Natural Mania.
Oh, okay.
And again, being a wrestling fan, Natural Mania's running wild. I'm like, I got to compete there. So, and it's it is everybody's fear. It's you step up on stage in school in your underwear.
Yeah.
You know,
Oiled up.
all oiled up and not sure what you're supposed to do. And, you know, you hear the voices from beyond the bright lights, like, you know, quarter turn to the right, you know, and invariably there's always the one person. I think it was me at one point that turns left. You know? But yeah, you know, it was something. I had back surgery in May and I wound up competing in September. And I
Wow.
just,
Wow.
it kind of really annoyed my doctor. And it probably was not the smartest thing, but like I said, it was a tough year. It was the divorce and
Yeah.
you know, a bunch of stuff going on. And I needed something good to happen. I needed something to, you know,
And you could control.
that exactly. It was the, you know, it's the world is falling apart, but you know what? I can still, you know, I can still work out and I can still, you know, take charge of what I'm eating, and we'll see what happens. And and I did well. I took second in the novice class. I did not have a tan.
Really?
I had been on medication for the back surgery, and I couldn't. It was photosensitive, so I couldn't go out and I couldn't tan because I would you know
You didn't
burn
have spray
to a
tans
crisp.
back then. There's
They didn't
nobody
have spray
walking
tans.
around with the machines.
Oh, wow.
back there.
Really?
I bought a bottle of Jantana, and I followed the directions. I swear to God, I followed the directions. You know exactly what it said on the bottle. And
The
I
only
woke up
thing
the
that was
next
tan were your
morning.
hands.
Yeah.
You know, I woke up the next morning doing my Scandinavian ancestry proud, because I was like as white as Casper the Friendly Ghost, and there was no time to do anything else. So I stepped up on stage, and I did the best I could. And I remember Charlie Carollo I met Charlie Carollo there for the first time, and he said, you know, the show was yours if you had a tan. And you know, it's kind of it's, you know, it was a good feeling because at least I knew, you know, I was, you know, I belonged up there.
Yeah.
But it was a bad feeling. It's like stupid. Just, you know, all I need to do
Yeah.
is just come in a little bit darker and stuff. So 6 weeks later was the NGA American Naturals, and you know, I decided I was gonna make some adjustments. I need to get a little bit leaner, and I needed to get darker. So I did. Hi guys, dogs are here.
Mine just
so
went
I,
upstairs.
So you know, I tightened up on my diet a little bit, and I did come in leaner. But then I was also I decided that despite the medication, I was going to tan anyway. So every night I was yeah. It's, so every night I was going into a tanning bed, and I got beautiful color and a third-degree burn on my right, you know, butt cheek. You know, it's you know, I'm up there, and you know, I have that, you know, now I have the look. You know, you got, like, you know, you're a little bit leaner, and you know, I got some trunks that fit better, and I've got this, you know, this beautiful tan, and then I have like this oozing like burn, like, you know, on my side. It's, you know, sticking to my posing trunks, and you know, but you know, I did well. So it was, you know, again, live and learn.
And how did that lead into being in magazines?
I guess they liked my look.
Yeah.
I had done some modeling back in the 80s.
Okay.
And you know, I had Richard Grieco was my spirit animal.
Nice.
You know, so
Nice.
I had the mullet, and I had the body wave and the mullet and everything, and I did a little bit there, and I actually kind of didn't like it. I did a TV show, and I had a part in Sean Penn's State of Grace, which was about it was like the Irish Mafia or something like that. And the day that we were supposed to film out in Queens, I quit.
Really?
Because it was such a superficial business. It was just such a, I mean, the 80s was kind of a very self-centered decade anyway. And I didn't like, I didn't like the business. I didn't like the running back and forth for auditions, or all the money that I spent on my portfolio. And some of the people were very just not pleasant to be around. They're very, very demanding,
Different
very
industry,
critical, very,
right?
yeah, it was just like, I wouldn't hang out with you, so so so
You don't
so
talk about
so
spots.
I quit. I just said, that's it. And I remember, telling my agent that day, and she was like flipping out because she had gotten me this part, and it was supposed to be, it was a big, I guess it was a big deal for them. But for me, it was kind of like I just don't want to do this anymore. So I after Natural Mania, the Natural Bodybuilding and Fitness was there, and the publisher was there for a couple of other fitness magazines, and I guess they liked my look, and I did a couple of photo shoots for them, and then I did a couple of things for Planet Muscle, and did a couple of supplement ads, and it wasn't something I took like really. Again, I didn't really take it too seriously. It just kind of fell into my lap, and I enjoyed the ride. But
So
it wasn't,
modest about it. You're like, yeah, it's just there. Like,
I,
everybody, you want to go see my pictures?
it's the, like I said, it was fun, and there was a lot of really nice people, and it was a different experience. But by the same token, I just didn't feel like it was me. I didn't
Yeah.
feel like it was I didn't want to, get
Wasn't
caught
you.
up in
Like,
that.
that's amazing that at your age, when that fell into your lap, that you could honestly say, like, I'm going to give it a little try. And it's just, this isn't me. I can't do this. It's a big step.
I was managing a Gold's Gym in New Jersey, and I got a call from a guy, I think up in your neck of the woods, and he left a message on my voicemail at the gym saying that he had seen my pictures, and he thought I could do some mainstream stuff. And I'm like listening to him, like, oh my gosh, that's it could be a good opportunity for for some extra money. So I go out onto the floor, and one of the machines had jammed. Somebody had wedged one of the pins in the machine, and we're trying to get it loose. So the CD cable row. So I go and I sit down, and I start to pull on the CD cable row, and the guy that was trying to help me goes and grabs the pin, and he's pulling it out by one of these like long, like it almost looks like a phone cord that they use to keep the pins, like on the machines people don't walk on. So he goes and he pulls while I'm pulling, and he goes and he swings it, and the steel pin goes and smacks me right across the face.
Oh,
I literally just listened to the voicemail where the guy goes, I think that you could make it in mainstream modeling. And then I walk out on the floor, and I get smacked in the face with this like steel pin. I'm like, God's angry.
man.
So now my lip is like this. It's all busted open. I've got like, I got like the duck lips before it was a thing on Instagram. And I'm thinking,
so you're saying you inspired the duck
lips. All right, well, that's out the window. But the the swelling went down, and in retrospect, he was probably a very nice guy, and we had a couple of really good talks, but it became almost like this daily, like, you need to get your pictures updated. You need to get, into like contest shape. You need to do this, and you need, and there was like one day, like I went out, on a date, And I came home and there was like this angry voicemail of like, you need to keep in contact with me, you know, um, every time that I
Yeah.
call, because I'm like, you know what, that's it. That's it. We're
And it's
going
honestly a whole different world.
right.
Being a fitness professional and being a fitness model or, a look for something, they are so different. Um, and like you said, you knew you were more, just even me just talking with you, you have so much knowledge that you wanted to share, you wanted to teach, you wanted to be in the trenches with. Um, it just seems like, yeah, that just wasn't the fit. It's just not the fit for you.
It
Just be
wasn't.
told what to do and show up here so we can take your pictures and this is what you need to look like, as opposed to why you got into the fitness industry in the first place.
Yeah, I just, I want to help people. I love, first of all, I love the industry. I love being in the gym. I love the industry, but I also like, helping people. Like whether
Yeah.
it's helping them lose weight or overcoming an injury or training for a certain goal or things like that. That's what I really love doing. I mean, I like, I like working with Gen Pop,
Yeah.
as opposed to, contest prep. Um, I originally had thought about doing when I was involved in powerlifting. I trained a few other people for powerlifting, and that was fun. But again, that's kind of that's a niche, and at the time, it's not like something that you could do online. There was no online. But I found that again, and I'm sure that like when you're working with bodybuilders too, there is always that pressure to bring that person to their peak.
Yeah.
And even if they don't place where they thought that they should have, or if they don't do as well as they should have, and it may not be any fault of your own, you're probably going to get the backlash for it. Like, well, why didn't I
Right.
win? I've been training with you. Why didn't I win? And there's always that other trainer. There's the piranhas are circling around of like, well, if you trained with me, you would,
Yeah.
you would have done better.
Mhm.
And it's just like, really, and that's kind of what the industry has become too. It's you get
Yeah.
people that are, I've seen people that work with one trainer and they're alone by a show, and I see another trainer come over and just hand them a business card of like,
Yeah.
if you're really not happy with how you placed, you ought to look me up. It's like, dude, that is just so,
Yeah.
I've had that is the horrible side of it. I've had great experiences, but that is something that definitely goes on at shows all the time.
Yeah.
Yep. And
All
I
the
love
time.
the sport. Don't get me wrong. I
Yeah.
absolutely still, I love the sport.
Mhm.
I love going to see a show. I love the people that, are involved in the sport, and probably my closest friends and people I consider family are all involved in the sport.
Mhm.
But it's that one aspect of like, it's not ethical. It's just not, it's rude. It's just really shady.
Yeah, and it's tough too because as as a trainer, you're trying to do your best with the clients that you work with, and you want to be like, there's clients who who have contacted me, or people that have contacted me, and they're like, I want to do this show in September. It's like, okay, well, can you send progress pictures? Let's see where you currently are. And it's like, well, listen, I would really give yourself more time. Well, can't you just push me really hard? No.
Amazon Prime.
Yeah, it's like,
The
no,
body
you
on
don't want to do
demand.
that. You're going to do more damage. You're going to do more damage than you are. Like, no, if you want to really like get to your peak, time is the best asset of any prep.
Yep.
And sometimes people don't understand that, and that's a hard, and then they'll go, and then it will, you know what I mean? And it's like, I'm just giving you my evaluation. You can choose to do what you want to do with it. You know what I mean? But then again, if you have somebody else, I could get you there in 8 weeks, and it's like, no, you can't. No, you can't, man. That's tough,
And to try is probably just gonna, there's gonna be some adverse reactions to it.
And I think that's something with bodybuilding and competing in general, is people don't realize the time it takes to prepare for a show, depending on how they look. and then the time you want to take off to actually make improvements. Like one thing I don't think people that compete use enough is the judges table and the judges feedback. I think when
Yeah,
you get judges
talked
feedback,
about
it's
this.
literally, yeah, I talk all the time. They're literally giving you answers to the test. They're literally going, here's what you need to work on. And then you
Yeah.
go to your trainer, you take that information, you set up programming accordingly. Done. But it's maybe when I judged last show, I think one person came up. It's like,
That's wild.
soft.
It's and it's frustrating because you see, especially with social media, you see people venting on social media that they're not happy with, how they did, and they didn't bother to to go for that feedback. And it's like, well, I don't know what the judges were thinking. Well, you would know if you would actually stop by the table and you would ask. And maybe you can disagree. It's you may see things differently, but at least you know why the judges scored you where they were.
Mm-hmm.
Where you were. And there's, if a judge is really taking their role seriously, they're going to give like an honest answer.
Mhm.
And they're not going to sugarcoat it.
Mhm.
And I always hate like when you're judging and somebody says, well, I don't know, I thought you looked great, I don't know what the other judges were doing. It's like, really? Never even saw that bus. Meanwhile, they had him probably in like third or fourth, and it's like, oh, I thought you were the winner. No, it says right on your score sheet there, you had him in third or fourth. You just don't want that confrontation with the competitor of, having to have that hard conversation.
Yeah.
And it's an emotional sport because everybody puts a lot into it. And when you step on stage and you're, like we just said, it's you're in school in your underwear, and you're standing up there and you're being critiqued. Some people take it personally, and it's not personal. It's like you're being judged by bodybuilding standards. As far as person goes, you probably look terrific. You're perfectly fine,
Right.
and your spouse, your significant other is probably really happy with how you look.
Transformation was great from where you come from to where you are.
Yeah, but if you're not ready to accept the criticism, you're probably not ready to step on stage.
Do you see a difference from the way individuals trained? And I mean this more of the people coming from a powerlifting background, of putting that work in, of building that foundation, and then transitioning into bodybuilding, opposed to not having that foundation. Like, were people using those principles more when you were coming up, of sticking to those big compound movements and not videoing themselves on the phone doing TikToks, where now I almost feel like around here there's certain gyms you go to where they work out, they're doing the movements, they're powerlifting, they're working. And then there's some you go to where it's like, okay, we know what this is about, it's mostly going to be a social media gym. You know what I mean? And I feel like coming up in a pre-social media era, the training was a lot more, you were more focused on what you were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like at Steel Mill, you had an Olympic lifting coach, you had a powerlifting coach, you had a bodybuilding coach. They all were there. You were meeting with your coaches, you were doing what you need to be doing. Even if the programming wasn't the greatest at that time, they were still taking you through what you should be doing. And there was no distractions. Where now I think there's a lot more distractions. That's what I'm getting at, is where like you go in to put in hard work, where I feel now it's almost like people want to skip the hard work portion of it and just become the social media influencer. It's tough.
See, this is why we get along. I have an expression, and that's, you can't avoid the hard work.
Yeah.
If you in anything, if you're going to be successful, you can't avoid the hard work. And for me, it was, we had just talked about like, throwing up in buckets and things like that. And, while I'm not advocating that, I did my share of Godzilla impressions in the men's room after like, a tough leg workout.
Yeah.
you know, there was a Ken Leistner was a big influence on me. Like if you ever read any of there's a book called The Steel Tip, and it's a collection of his articles. Ken Leistner was an absolute madman and a genius. And we made a trip out to his gym in Long Island, and you looked around the gym and there's buckets right on the gym floor, and that's what it was for. And again, I don't advertise, I don't advocate that, and I don't push my clients like that, but that was, you know, there are times that, you know, I think we've all had those workouts where you're feeling pretty queasy, you know, especially if you want to excel at a higher level. For my general population people, no, that's not it. But, you know, for the people that I worked with for you know, powerlifting or for bodybuilding or, you know, even some tactical training, you know, you have a goal that not everybody is capable of achieving. They don't have that mindset. And in order to do that, you've got to kind of push yourself a little bit harder, and occasionally it's going to get messy.
And to play off of that also, I think it's a mindset thing, because when we came from that era of like, you keep doing it till you throw up, you don't stop, you're gonna deadlift it, and then when you start getting programmed and you're like, oh, I just gotta do like 4 sets of 65% of my 1 round. Okay, no problem.
Right? Why didn't you tell me that before?
I know, right? To where when you tell people who haven't been through that, they're like, and it's like, well, that's all I got to do today. Okay.
You know, I never set out to throw up in the gym.
Right.
That was never my goal. It was like, you know, I never woke up and said, you know what, I feel like I'm gonna decorate the carpet near the squat rack. But I do remember I was in high school, and there was a bodybuilder at the gym that I was training at, and he wanted to use the squat rack, you know, and I am in the squat rack, and I think he was going to teach me a lesson, because he's like, you know, can I work in with you? You know, and me, you know, 6 foot 160, you know, and with the mullet. And you know,
thank you for the visual.
it was actually 155 and then 5 pounds of hair product. But so he's like, you know, it's like, hey, little fella, do you want to work in? And this bodybuilder wants to work in with me. And it's like, no, he wanted the rack. So he's, you know, I think, you know, 225 or 255 or something like that was what I was squatting with. He's like, no, you got to add more weight. And he's 295, and it's like, okay, you know, 4 reps, you know, down, pulling me back up, down, and pulling me back up. Stop the kicking. And it's like, okay, we're going to do hack squats now. Throws me on the hack squat. Okay, up and down, you know. So I'm like lying in the men's room floor. I've already like thrown up twice, and I have the Doors Crystal Ship playing in my head, because it's some sort of psychedelic trip from, like, you know, this leg workout that you know, he put me through, which I do not recommend. You know, but that was the mentality, and the same thing, like, you know, Beth, I think you had said it, like, there's this idea that you have to suffer, you know. So at that time, like, you know, it was this whole, you have to suffer. And you see it with diet too. You try to sell somebody on like a flexible diet plan. That's like, well, I can have this, this, and this, but, you know, my trainer told me it was, you know, tilapia and chicken breast and broccoli. You know, it's like, because you have to suffer. And again, it's everything is done as a means to an end. And it doesn't mean that this way is not going to work. It just means that this way can work just as well, or it might work even better. Or, you know, it's different strokes for different folks. But I think that, you know, when you tell somebody that, you know, you only have to do, you know, 4 sets at 65%, or you can have, you know, a sandwich on your diet, you know, they're like, no, that's impossible. I've got to suffer, you know. And it's this, they romanticize the process. You know, it's this whole, this is where I'm getting on my soapbox. You know, I like to think that, you know, I trained as hard as anybody, you know, and I would never say I trained harder than anybody, because I wouldn't want to disrespect anybody. But when I locked in, when, you know, for a competition, I made sure I hit all of my workouts. I made sure that, I never deviated from my diet. I did all of that, but I never complained about it because I was doing it to myself. And you have, this whole thing of like, it's a grind and it's like, I'm suffering and I'm struggling, but I'll make it through. I'll do this, it's a war zone out there. And it's like, no, you're doing this to yourself. You're doing this for like a, for a trophy. It's, and people shouldn't feel sorry for you because it's, you're doing it for you're doing it for essentially a hobby.
Yeah.
Or you could say it's a lifestyle, but it's your choice. And I think that, again, there's this romantic notion of you have to suffer in order to do this, and somehow it makes your contest prep that much more noble.
Yes, I agree.
As opposed to the person that just, doesn't post all of this suffering and struggling on Facebook, and they just kind of go about their business, and they eat their macros and they get the workouts in and they show up and they compete.
Yeah, I think people take more pride in how restrictive their plan was leading up to a show than actually competing in the show at times. Especially when it's like, well, I only was allowed 25 grams of carbs a day, and I had to stick to tuna, and I had to stick to brown rice, and that's how we did it. And it's like, I had a Nutella pancake. Well, you can't do that. It's like, no, I did. I really, it's like, but they look at you like, well, that doesn't work for everybody. And they're like, no, it does. It does.
No, like, really, it does.
It does. It's not as
just doesn't sound as sexy as saying, I'm
right.
This.
Yeah.
Like, this is the new one.
Yeah.
And I'm on.
But again, though, people take it's attention seeking in the fact that, and again, do what you do. It is what it is. But when you have to see the posts of, I suffered to get here and I suffer to do, and it's like, this is just a hobby, right? Like, this isn't like,
I just ordered 7 jars of peanut butter.
We're just above collecting Pokemon cards. Like, we're not really, like, you can stop at any time you want.
Yeah.
But that's another thing. There is still to this day pushback on flexible nutrition.
It's I threw a hand grenade in a discussion a couple of years ago, and I'll preface this by saying, the last show that I did, I worked with Dr. Joe.
Oh, really?
Dr. Joe was one of the original proponents of flexible dieting. Okay. I also, from 1999 to 2007, I used to run a nutrition program called Apex.
Okay.
Apex was it was the brainchild of a guy named Neil Spruce, who was a really good bodybuilder back in the 80s, NPC bodybuilder back in the 80s, and it was at one time was affiliated with NASM, and it was a flexible dieting program. So I'm very familiar with that. So when probably about 10 years ago, when the If It Fits Your Macros, movement started, and people started showing like pictures of like jelly beans, like I can have this, I can have that. I think I pissed everybody off. Can I say that on the podcast? Sorry. Okay. By saying that, if it fits your macros is the new CrossFit. So now I have CrossFitters that are all angry at me, and I have people that they're all angry at me, and it was just like, oh boy, this is not going to go well. And it's just like, nasty comment. But my thought process behind this, and I talked to Dr. Joe about it like a couple of years later, is, flexible dieting is it's a fantastic concept, and one that I fully support. But when we started giving it the whole, if it fits your macros, and we started showing like, devil dogs and jelly beans and all of that, and it became about how much crap can we fit into our diets.
Right. Yes, I agree.
With little regard, it's the same thing as what when we were doing metabolic conditioning. And then it became CrossFit of, how can we outdo each other every time we go to the gym without any programming? And there are CrossFit coaches that I would trust with my life that are brilliant. But I think, we've all seen that where the you know, the community kind of like gets together to try to like, you know, get as many reps as possible and do it as any way that you can. And people are getting hurt, and people are getting, you know, they're being pushed beyond, you know, safe limits, you know, in this runaway train of metabolic conditioning. That was the direction that I saw, if it fits your macros, going from flexible dieting, because we're getting away from this flexible responsibility to, you know, again, look at me on Facebook. I can have so many, you know, ding dongs, or I can have so many, you know, Sprites or 7-Ups or, you know, whatever, as long as it fits in those numbers. You know, and that was my point.
No, I see where you're going with that, because I always tell people you can't treat this like a 5-year-old on Halloween. That's not the point of this. It's the point of being able to fit a wide variety of foods into your plan to help with adherence and long-term sustainability, but making sure, like we run an intro to flexible dieting seminar where we talk to people about higher nutrient dense foods versus lower nutrient dense foods. And, you know, it's actually a 3-week course, and it's like,
Make it work. How to make
and this
it
is,
fit.
we have everybody take it before we'll work with them, because again, we don't want them to walk away with, you know, I had 7 Tim Horton muffins. It's like, I don't think you took the course, did you? You didn't take any notes in that course, did you? You didn't, you know, because I could definitely see it. But I also see the point to where people do get excited that they're able to fit some foods in to their plan, because we've come from an era of nobody sitting by me in college because I had tuna packets in my bag. And so,
Right. It was just, you know,
that's a real story,
I did that
by the
on
way.
vacation last
That's a
year.
real story. I'm
I
like,
was the weirdo with my plastic spoon. And my teeth. Like, this restaurant does not have enough protein. I'm sorry.
yeah, I remember buying tilapia. And this is, again, this is where there's a backlash too. Is I remember buying tilapia, okay, and getting criticized for it, because there was that, you know, now, like, you know, because so many people would, you know, say you got to eat tilapia to thin your skin. You can't eat tilapia. Whereas I was looking for a cheap fish to eat that night.
yeah,
I wasn't. I don't care like what fits into my budget. You know what? I could afford that one. I'm going to take that, and you know, automatically it's kind of like, well, you know, you don't have to eat that. You know, it's not going to do you. I know, but it was cheap, and it's, you know, I'm hungry. You know, so there is always that backlash of, you know, people are looking at it and say, well, you don't have to eat that way. I know I don't, but you don't have to eat that way. I know I don't.
Yeah.
You know, so you can't punish somebody for if they want the structure.
Oh yeah.
The same way that you can't punish somebody that just wants the flexibility.
Oh, absolutely. That's a very good point. And I agree too, because I think if people look at, I bet you this goes for a lot of us too, is I eat pretty much the same thing, but I veer when I have time. It's mostly because I'm busy. I can cook in bulk. I can just spread out my meals, and it's just easier for what I want to do. But the adherence comes in is when I do want to veer a bit and be a bit more flexible, I can. To back in the day where it was like, no, you can't. I remember prepping for 16 weeks, same 6 meals every day, no cheat day. I didn't want to compete anymore after that. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I can't go to an event. I can't have this. I can't have that. And it wasn't until I actually learned about flexible nutrition where it was like, oh, I see the balance. I see. Again, though, we come from throw up workouts to properly program workouts to super restrictive, that when you get to have a little bit of flexibility, you're so happy. You're so happy with it.
And this is, again, this is the evolution of you know, our industry, of finding out that you know, you didn't have to do it that way. You know, and just because everybody else was doing it doesn't mean it was the best way of doing it. I had a wedding I had to go up to in Boston, 2002, I think it was 2002, and it was a month before the WNBF Worlds, and I'm at the cocktail hour, and I've got a shaker bottle of whey protein. You know, so everybody is like, you know, they have all their cocktails and they have all that, and I'm toasting the bride and groom with my you know, my shaker bottle and everything, because I'm afraid to, you know, to deviate from, you know, from that. Brought my own little like food to, you know, the wedding guests are all being served, and there I am. I'm reaching into like my little like cooler and stuff like that, because God forbid I had like, you know, something that, you know, wasn't the same thing that I've been eating for the last, you know, 16, 18 weeks.
Yeah, yeah. That is really interesting. That's so true, man. It's so true. It's and again though, you only knew what you knew at that time. But
Yeah.
as you start to learn more, it just amazes me that we're to a point now where people still don't believe that that approach works, and you still have to be so restrictive with what you consume. And what's crazy is I looked at it as, well, wait a minute, if I'm able to apply this strategy and do well, the general population should have no problem applying this strategy because I was able to take my physique from one place to another doing this. They can apply it, and the adherence, you would think the adherence would be much higher doing it. You know what I mean? For the
Yeah.
general population. But I do think some of our adherence comes from coming from such a restrictive background before that. You know what I
I
mean?
would
Where
totally agree. Totally agree.
I think that's where it's a little it differs for people, but it's such a great approach. Like I said, I wouldn't have competed again if I couldn't do flexible nutrition, like your flexible diet. It was just too much.
There's, in every sport, there's superstition.
Mhm.
You look at, guys when they go up to bat and they have a certain routine when they're, when they step into the batter's box. And I think bodybuilding is no different. There's the superstition of that there are these, magical exercises or magical foods, or there's this, a certain approach that nobody wants to deviate from because that's the way it's always been done.
Yeah.
You know?
And do you think a lot of the research that we've actually had, like earlier, like I'm talking like late 80s, well, 80s, 90s, a lot of that was coming from, I mean, we've competed as natural athletes. A lot of that information was coming from not natural athletes, correct?
Yeah, I would, the first time I competed, I read Chris Aceto's Guide to Bodybuilding, or complete book of bodybuilding, whatever it was. But it was, it was very basic, but it worked. And if you look at, like, again, we talk about the bottom line is the calorie deficit,
Mhm.
taking in a sufficient amount of protein, and then kind of everything else, whether or not you want to do a little bit more fat, whether you want to do a little bit more carb, or whatever it is. And that's kind of what works. So any way that you look at, like, all of these diets that people are going on, whether it's, it's a keto or a paleo, or, it's a low carb or high carb or whatever, everything works in a deficit, and
Yes.
it's just, what is best for the individual,
Yes.
and how it matches their style of training.
Yeah.
It's, you talk to Vicky McCann and Guy Addison, and they have a great approach of, this is how athletes eat, and a bodybuilder is an athlete. Our training is, we go to the gym, and we train like athletes, even though the actual sport is, it's the competition is different, but the actual training is very similar. So why not fuel yourself as an athlete to get through these workouts? And it's, it kind of makes sense. It more than kind of, it does make sense.
Yeah.
It is the sense.
Yeah.
Sense.
And speaking of Vicky and Guy, when did you become involved with DFAC, and can you explain what that is?
So, I had known Vicky. I met Vicky in 2002, I think, at the WNBF Worlds, and I knew her from the message boards. And, she had, if you look at, if you follow the BNBF, everything is first class. I mean,
Yeah.
everything from the stage to how the show is run, to the athletes, it's first class. And I've always had a lot of respect for Vicky and Guy.
Mhm.
And they left the WNBF. They saw things in the WNBF at the time that they did not like, and they didn't think it was fair. And they left in 2006, I believe, to kind of go do, kind of go with another organization, and they tried a couple of different organizations after the WNBF. I was I came up through the INBF and through competed in the WNBF. I went to work in the front office. I was when I left, I was the chairman of the WNBF. And I saw some of the things that she had said years ago that caused her to leave. And I was really disenchanted with the sport, because I had put a lot of myself into it and a lot of effort, and the leaving the WNBF, it was a painful, it was a painful split. I went from working in the front office, the publishing closed, the publisher also was the founder of the WNBF. We had a falling out, and I was done with the sport. I was just like, what, it's just not fun anymore. It's politics, and it's a business. And I always, as much as I watch pro sports, and I realize that it is about, like, it is a business, a part of me still views it as a sport. I still look at it I still watch sports for the athleticism.
Mhm.
I still try to be involved in it for, because I enjoy watching, the athletes compete. And it wasn't fun. And she sent me a message on Facebook. The first thing she said was, "Keep your chin up." And she said after she was competing at the Yorton Cup, and she said after the Yorton, she actually invited me down there. She goes, "You can be part of the BNBF team,"
Oh, geez.
which I am 40% Scottish, so it's it was I would have fit in.
I have a BNBF shirt because I exchanged with one of the athletes from the UK.
They're wonderful. They're wonderful people. I mean, it's just like
They're the nicest people, and they're so nice.
they were. And I remember this. I remember when I was competing in New York at the Worlds, and the BNBF team, it was just so spirited. It was, you saw them backstage and they're all helping each other, and you hear them out in the audience, and it's loud and it's rowdy, and it's, they were having fun. So after the Yorton and stuff, she reached out to me, and here I am unemployed, because the publisher had closed the magazine, and I had left the WNBF, and I was trying to figure out what to do. And she said, she goes, I want to do a bodybuilding organization, and I want to make it a sport again, and I want it to be fun. And she goes, I want you to do it here in the US. And I got off the phone with her, and my wife is just like, how did it go? And I said, she wants me to start a bodybuilding organization here. Oh. Are you going to make money on it? No. Oh, is it going to make you happy? Yeah, I think so. All right, well, then go do it. Which was incredibly supportive of her, considering we had a 1-year-old at the time. But it was I think that she saw how hurt I was, by not being involved in the sport, and by seeing, like, everything that was wrong with the sport kind of come to a head. That here was the opportunity to work with somebody that was in this not for money, but for the love of the sport. And it kind of, I've said it many times, if it wasn't for her, I would have been done with the sport back in 2011. I wouldn't, I would not have, you'd never see me at another contest again. I was in that bad a place. So.
Yeah, that was, I mean, they are some of the nicest people ever. There's still shows in the state. Are there shows in the state still?
We had a couple in Nebraska.
Gotcha.
And with the pandemic, everybody got hurt by the pandemic. And then, you look at not only that, you look at how many people they're involved in CrossFit, or powerlifting is kind of like on the uptick, and now Olympic lifting is back on the uptick. So you have all of these strength sports, or you have all of these, I don't want to say cult sports, but all of these kind of like niche sports that people are putting their money and their effort in. And I think it's kind of made it tough for all of these organizations, and there's so many organizations to run shows. You're asking somebody to to promote a show. You have to secure a venue, and you have to purchase trophies, and you have to get a polygrapher, and you have to get somebody to do the urine testing and all of these things. So it's a risk that if you don't get enough people, then chances are you're not going to get enough audience, because people hopefully bring an audience. And it's with the economy the way it is, it's a risk. So next year we do have a plan. This year was kind of rough because of the move and everything. Next year I do want to try to get a DFAC USA championships.
Ooh.
Yeah, even if we just do one big show to kind of get the ball rolling again, that's kind of what I would like to.
Did we just get breaking? Do we just get breaking news on the Spinoonie Fitness podcast?
You heard it here first.
Oh man, I'm pumped. I loved it.
I
loved it. It was, from the way they approached the show, you can tell everybody was doing it because they genuinely love the sport, and how kind, especially in Miami, how nice everybody was. Everybody was just so nice. It was amazing. Just from Vic, I remember after the show. So Beth, you would have loved it. So after the show, they did the pancake, the Halloween party.
Yeah.
In the G-Pack.
Halloween's my thing.
Yeah. So it was awesome. So you just got done competing, you showered up, you come down with your costume. And I remember sitting in the lobby, I think I was talking to Siobhan or something, and Eugene, and Vicky walked out. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, just sitting. Want to get a sandwich?" "Sure." And Eugene's like, "Yeah, come on, let's go get sandwiches." We just went with them to go get sandwiches. We were just talking. They were just talking. Super. Hey, so how you been? Where you? And they were just so nice. It was like, this is what the sport needs.
Yeah, and
we need this.
You go back to the old days, and the camaraderie that you saw in the gym. You saw that's the bodybuilding that I grew up on.
Yep.
It wasn't people with their headphones in, or on their phones, or filming their workouts, or it was about you had a gym family,
Mm-hmm.
And then even when I first started competing, and you go to to some of the shows around the area, you saw the same people, and people would come up to you and "Hey, how you doing?" It was more of a group, and you don't see that as much anymore. I've seen a couple of the shows that I've judged at. I've seen some flashes of it, but now it's become kind of a for a lot of people, it's become very. I mean, bodybuilding was always in the sense it was always a selfish show, or a selfish sport. Because you have to put so much of yourself into it. And kind of give up some time with your family, and like I said, you go to weddings or something like that. Maybe you can't indulge the way you can, or right. It's a lot more difficult. It's more of it's a stricter lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what we've also seen is there is a lack of camaraderie in bodybuilding, just because everybody is so self-absorbed, maybe, and cue all the angry comments on Facebook. Yeah, but it's how many times have you seen so many people ripping apart an organization or other competitors, or stuff online, that it's just like, wow, you do realize that the person that placed ahead of you is now seeing these comments, and you've just totally rained on their parade. You know,
Yes.
there's not a, you know, there's, you know, there's been, look, there's been shows that, you know, I competed in that I thought maybe I should have placed higher. And there's also, you know, I'm sure there were people that probably looked at where I placed and said, oh, I should have placed in front of him, you know? But I don't ever remember, you know, to me, it was always kind of like okay, well, that's where the judges found me. That's, you know, so be it. And I never had anybody that kind of came up to me afterwards and said, you know, I should have beat you, or I should have, you know,
Yeah.
they may have thought, but there was some diplomacy there.
It was almost a code. Like, you just didn't do it. Now I think
Sportsmanship.
yeah, sportsmanship. You nailed it. Now I think it's just acceptable behavior. But again, I hate to sound like the old guy, but I feel like you did have a lot of camaraderie back in the day in gyms pre-social media, because the only ones there to experience what you were about to do, or training or push or whatever, were the people in the gym. They were your social media. So when you've seen somebody, like I remember being at Steel Mill, like somebody like Olympic lifters would be getting ready to do something, or a power lifter, or even a big squat, you see like 8 or 9 people huddle around watching. Let's go. And it's like, wow, this is awesome. That you don't see a lot of. You don't see a lot. And it's hard when you come from that environment where it's like, yo, why aren't we all kind of pulling together here? Because everybody's got their headphones on doing their own thing. Or I get yelled at for walking in front of somebody's video that they're videoing. You know what I mean? You know, it's
it's the, you know, people will set up like a tripod with a camera on it, like, you know, while they're, you know, now they're taking not just one piece of equipment, but they're taking a whole area so they can film like content for their social media.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, this is, you know, it's people are more concerned with building their brand rather than their bodies.
Do you think that also had an effect on competing? Because I also remember, God, I feel like the old guy. I also remember back in the day when people would, when somebody competed, like even up here, like when a guy that won the Buffalo, like when he would walk into your gym, the Mr. Buffalo competition, when he walked into your gym, it was like, oh, so-and-so's here. So-and-so. And that was like the big thing.
Yeah.
Where now it's like, oh, so-and-so's here. They have 1.7 million followers.
Oh, yeah.
It's different.
You could buy followers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and I had this, you know, I've been involved with a couple of supplement companies, and have been, you know, fortunate to be sponsored by a couple of you know, by a couple of the bigger ones. And you know, I still keep in touch. I still do some content for some of them, write some articles, or you know, do some emails. And the big thing is like well, you know, do you know anybody that has a big following that we could, you know, you know, bring in as an ambassador? Is the new term. It's like, well, anybody can buy anybody can buy followers.
Yes.
And there's no guarantee that the followers that they bought have any interest in using your product. You know, they may not even work out. They just may be, you know, a paid follower.
Yeah.
That's never set foot in the gym. So I think there's that. I think there's the, you know, social media has become all about perception. You
Absolutely.
know, the perception of being successful, the perception of being an expert, the perception of being popular, and I think it's had such a negative effect on a lot of people, because they feel that there is a standard that they need to measure up to. And I don't want to, you know, I don't want to go off on another tangent. But you know, you look at you know, there's been a couple of suicides in college sports by female athletes that you know, kind of feel the pressures of, you know, being in the spotlight in the sports. But also, I think, you know, we kind of create this idea of how people are supposed to look, how athletes are supposed to look on social media. So if you get, you know, if you get an athlete that is, you know, it performs on the field brilliantly, but doesn't look like, you know, one of the fitness models or something, it's just, it's added pressure. you know. And I say that with all, you know, with you know, a genuine concern for how people perceive themselves,
Mhm.
you know, as an athlete. And also maybe the public needs to start rethinking how we see athletes, you know, because if they're a softball player or they're a soccer player or, you know, a basketball player or something, all that matters is that, you know, they can put the ball in the goal, or they can, you know, they can get a hit or pitch a game. And there shouldn't be any sort of a pressure on them to look more athletic,
Mhm.
you know.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's kind of like in our field too, where like I don't walk around with abs year round. I don't walk around. That's not how I walk around. I'm heavier, you know, and it's like I don't feel the pressure of having to be lean. I want to be healthy. I don't work out. I still, you know what I mean. But it's sometimes people will say, well, you know, I want to look like this year round. It's like it's very hard to maintain that
Sure.
year round. And a lot of people on social media that are doing that, either one, are super genetically gifted, or two, just not natural. So it's almost, so I go through this with competitors that constantly compare themselves. Well, you know, they'll say, well, I seen a girl that competes and I just look nothing like her. I'm like, I don't expect you to look anything like her. You know what I mean? And it's having a reality based comparisons. If you're going to have a comparison, at least know what you're comparing yourself to.
Well, it's you know, you know, I haven't had abs since 2006. But, you know, but even then my abs were never great. Like it, and I could keep a small waist, but genetically I just did not have great abs. And that's the other thing, is like people will look at somebody and they'll say, that's how I want to look. And their genetics aren't necessarily going to allow that. It's their structure is different. You know, if you're, you know, you know, looking at a 5'10" fashion model with, you know, 36-inch legs, and you're, you know, 4'11", and, you know, you don't have long legs, or you have wider hips or whatever, it's not going to happen the same way as, you know, I can look at, you know, somebody like Clarence McGill, you know, when he's up on stage, and, you know, he had this like chiseled midsection that was just like, you know, freakish. And I'm like kind of I'm looking down at myself. Why don't I, you know, why don't I look like that?
Was it the tilapia? Was it?
Yeah, it must have been tilapia. Or, you know, you know, my lats were always very high. Like I had that, you know, I had the long waist, and then the lats would, you know, kind of insert higher up. So I had that, you know, kind of lollipop, you know, type of back. And I have to stand on stage with, you know, guys like Rob Hogue or Jim Cordova, or, you know, Ben Tennyson or something that had, or Rodney Hilaire, that had these big, beautiful sweeping lats. And it's no amount of one-arm dumbbell rows or seated cable rows are going to, you know, build something that's just not there. So, you know, we could also look at our social media idols, and we could say like, oh, I want to look at that. But you also have to realize, like, you know, it may never happen, just because genetically you might be two different people. You know?
Expectation versus reality. It's one of the biggest mind struggles people go through.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we also have, it's like I can do this. I can use unrealistic motivators, knowing I'm never going to get there.
Yeah.
I just what I've always done. Like that's why we have the pictures of Dorian Yates and Ronnie Coleman and this. I know I'm never going to get there, but it just motivates me a little bit. But I don't expect to ever look like that. You know, it's being realistic.
You know, I'm a huge Dorian Yates fan. You know, I got a chance to meet him at Birmingham Body Power over in the UK.
Oh, wow.
And Vicky is actually friends with him. So like we went over there, and, you know, here I am. I think this was probably I was probably 49 years old, you know, and I'm like a little kid. I'm like buying his book. I bought a sweatshirt. I bought 2 DVDs. I shook his hand. I'm like, oh my God, and stuff. And my big thing was, I loved the way the guy trained. I loved I love that intensity. I can watch those videos of
Mhm.
how hard he worked, and that would motivate me. But I also knew, one, I am never going to look like Dorian Yates, you know, and you know, two, you know, as you know, as many titles as he won, you know, his physique was probably not the most aesthetic and stuff, and that was something that, you know, so it was, you know, you can look at your heroes, you can, you know, you can draw from different aspects. It
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily have to be like looking up to their physique. It could be, you know, the way that they carry themselves or the way that they train. My biggest motivation during the 2006 training for the WNBF Worlds in 2006 was I would watch the first Mickey Ward Arturo Gatti fight.
Ooh, wow. Nice.
That was because you had this journeyman fighter that nobody expected to bring it to this up and coming, you know, star. And it was to me, that was the motivation. That was the, you know, this guy goes out there and with this workman-like approach gives the fight of the century and
Mhm.
wins. You know,
Yeah.
so that was my motivation. It was not, I wasn't going to go on stage. I wasn't going to like knock anybody out.
Right,
You know,
right.
but the idea of that's what motivated me.
And I think, and Beth, yours is probably UFC All Access, huh?
UFC, baby.
But you know what it is? It's because I also think it has something to do with mindset. I think when you see somebody, you know where you have to put yourself when it comes to reaching any goal in life, right? I say stepping on stage and dedicating yourself to something is like dedicating yourself to a lot of different goals. If you want to be great at something, there's going to be some type of isolation and dedication that takes place. You're gonna shut off the world at some point and zero in. And I always think that's amazing. I think that's why we watch things like that, is to watch somebody train. Like I used to watch Sean Shirk from the UFC back in the day train. I don't know, it's a guy I always liked. But they would show these guys training. It's like, you know where mentally they are. And not a lot of people, some people in life never go there. They never zero in. So I always find that interesting of people that, especially when you're in an individual sport. I don't have teammates to bank on. It's either I'm going to stick to this or I'm not. I'm either going to complete this workout or I'm not. So when it's all on you and you have to put yourself there, that I really, that's why I like watching, like I was saying, like people training for stuff, because they're training for something and this is what they want to achieve. And like I said, some people never get to feel that in life. It's pretty interesting.
No, it's, you know, to your point, like your teammates don't go into the gym and they can't do the cardio for you.
Yeah.
You know, they can't do the workout for you. You know, they can't, you know, meal prep for you. It's all you.
Yep.
And you know, that's the great thing about sport, about bodybuilding. And it was the great thing about powerlifting. Powerlifting to me made so much sense. You know, heaviest weights there, whoever picks it up wins.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Absolutely. And the scariest thing about it is you can quit anytime you want. Just walk away.
Yeah.
Get off the treadmill. Go ahead. Turn it off. Walk away. You're done. You don't have to do this. That's scary. It's a scary place to put yourself, where you're like, if I step off this, I can walk away, but I don't. I have a goal. And I think that's life lessons. You can push yourself through that.
I didn't do nearly as well on the pro level as I did on the amateur level, you know, because every time that you move up a level, you're competing against people that have done everything that you have done, and then some.
Yeah.
You know,
I remember you telling me this.
Yeah,
welcome to the bottom. Once you go pro, welcome to the bottom.
That's it. It's how do you go from rank number 1 to rank number 50? Go pro. You know, and it's the you know, but that's, you know, that's the, to me, that was the whole thing. Like, if you really want to see where you stand in the world, you know, you're going to compete against the best. You're not going to pick an easy show. You're going to, you know, if you want to win a show, then you can be more strategic and you could say, okay, well, I stand a better chance in this. It's a lesser show. But if you really want to see where you stand in the world, then you step on stage with the very best. You know, and my whole thing was, I knew that there was people that I was never going to beat. First time I saw Ben Tennyson like walk down the hallway toward me, you know, he just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and the hallway got smaller and smaller and stuff. I was just like,
Yeah.
damn, he's big and
Mm.
stuff. But I wanted to look like I belonged, and I wanted to be able to say that I did everything I possibly could to get ready for that show.
Mm-hmm.
And I never wanted to look back and say, you know what, I cheated on, you know, on this day, or I skipped this workout, or I, you know, if I did everything that I had planned to do and I couldn't do anything more, I was good with wherever I placed.
Yeah, all my boxes have to be checked. When I competed in Miami, I pretty much did all I could at that point, you know, and it was, you were stepping on stage with the best in the world. Like it was what it was. So I was like, yeah, I didn't place it all, but man, I appreciated the experience because I love the sport, and I was able to be on stage and see the best in the world do it. And it was like, that to me was just really cool. Actually, it's funny. I had the same experience with David Kay, Rich. We were talking and he's the nicest guy. So we're talking one day, I'm in a tank top. He's got a jacket on, right? The day before the show, he has a jacket on. And we're talking about like just the approaches to nutrition that they do in the UK and what we do in the States. And he was telling me about his carb intake, and, you know, we were talking about cardio and stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he was wearing a jacket. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, maybe. Then the next day we got there and I go, not a chance. Not a chance. I'm like, what did you do overnight? What did you, like, he looked fantastic and he was so nice. I'm like, I can't even be mad. Like, I can't even be mad at you.
And that's the thing. It's, you know, David he's everything that is right about the sport.
Yeah.
You know, because he's, you know, he is, I've seen him give feedback. You know, you talk about like the judges table. I've seen him give feedback to people, and he'll stand there for as long as it takes, and he'll, you know, he'll give people advice and what they need to do, and you know, he's trying to give back to the sport. Meanwhile, you know, he's going to go down as one of the best natural bodybuilders ever, and yet he's totally humble about it. He's totally, you know,
yeah.
He's competitive. He wants to win. You know, he puts in the work. He's, you know, I've seen videos of him, you know, training, and you know, he's.
I'll send you some, Beth, of his video. His videos are great. Like he's intense.
He's intense, but when he's out of the gym and he's off the stage, you'd never know, because he's the perfect gentleman. You know, great representative of the sport.
Yeah, it was funny for the show leading to the DFAC Buffalo. I had a person in my mind that I won't mention names, but they really motivated me. And then when I heard, and I was like, all right, cool, I won the show. And then when it was David Kay, by the time I met him, I almost felt like he was a celebrity at that point, because you've heard so much about him, but you never met him. And then like it's one of those things where they say like don't meet your idols. He's one of those people you totally met, lived up to expectation, and much more. Like such a nice guy. You didn't even mind getting beat by him. Not like I had a chance, by the way. Although there is a cool picture I'll send you, Rich. We did a most muscular facing each other, and it's like one of my favorite pictures like ever. It's so cool. He was just so nice. I'm like, hey, you want to do a most muscular? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, wow, you're a humongous human being. Like, you are huge.
It's Clarence McGill tagged me in a photo like that too. It's like me standing in the back of the lineup and him on stage and stuff, and he's flexing, and I'm just kind of standing there. I'm like, oh yeah, I look even more pathetic, you know, and stuff. But here's the thing. This is great, because you know, you meet people like David Kay or you know, I got to say I stepped on stage with Clarence or Ben Tennyson or Rodney Hilaire, or you know, I judging. You know, you get to, you know, Robert Johnson, Siobhan Cunningham, all of these people. You get to see these people up close, and you know, it's the magazines or videos or pictures. In so many cases, just don't do them justice.
No,
you know, so
I agree.
That's part of the great experience of going to see a show live.
Yeah. Beth is planning on competing. That's breaking news too. She doesn't know it yet, but she's planning on competing. That's breaking news too. Actually, there's the DFAC next year that will be
well, you know,
USA Championships.
Before we finish up tonight, Rich, you have Fitter Tactical Training that you run.
I do.
Can you talk a little about that and explain what that is?
Sure. After, you know, breaking news, Beth is competing in the next year's, you know, more breaking news. So, so my parents were both first responders. My dad was a fireman. My mother was on the rescue squad when I was growing up. So, I've got I have an appreciation for for the physicality of those jobs. My workout partner is a retired police chief, and he was the gym owner at the time that I when we first moved up here and I started training at this gym. He just happened to be the gym owner, and he was the chief of the town that I grew up next to. We didn't know each other, but it was kind of weird. We're about a year apart in age, and it was just like this whole stars aligning type thing. So we became really, really close friends. And at the time, I was looking at trying to find maybe a niche, and thought about like all the times that you see firefighters or some of the police officers that I've worked out with in the gyms over the years, or EMTs, and they get hurt, or they're just not in the physical condition that they need to be, to do their jobs. So I looked into the NSCA has a tactical strength and conditioning facilitator program, and I wound up taking that. And I started working with a couple of people, getting them ready for the police academy. One of the instructors at the gym was she was a firefighter candidate, so we got kind of talking about about the differences in training for just going to the gym and working out, or general fitness, or even bodybuilding, and the specifics of training for the physical fitness tests for I worked with somebody for the FBI, worked with somebody for the state police, worked with somebody for municipal police jobs, worked with somebody for the fire academy, got somebody ready for going away to a military boot camp. And these tests are all different. So it's not like somebody goes in and just like, well, I'm just going to bench press, I'm going to squat, I'm going to run on the treadmill, I'm going to be ready. Because the law of specificity says that your training is going to it has to match what your goal is. So I started designing programs that, knowing what the FBI PFT was, or what the municipal police PFT was, or what the boot camp was, and started working with these people, and it just kind of snowballed. And it's a niche that I really like, because I think it's kind of a way of honoring my parents and what they did for the community. And I grew up at firehouses. I grew up in rescue squad headquarters, and they were all kind of like my aunts and uncles. I had you go there, and that's that's not just Bob, that's Uncle Bob, that's Uncle Jim, that's right. Uncle, all of that. So it was kind of like it was something that I kind of felt was a niche that wasn't really being explored, and I've really enjoyed doing it.
How unique.
It's different, so I do that. I still do work with some athletes. I had worked with somebody for lacrosse. I mean, football, or those type of sports, and it gets me away from bodybuilding or powerlifting, and it's a different avenue, and I've really enjoyed it. I've really, the tactical training is the one thing, and then the performance training is something else. But for the most part, I think the tactical training has been very rewarding.
That's so awesome. How can people get a hold of you, Rich?
Well, we're as I told you before before the broadcast, we're actually relocating to Hawaii in about 2 weeks.
Gotcha.
So I'm going to be kind of setting up shop there. I'm hoping to do some teaching, fingers crossed. But I'm on Facebook. My regular page, it's Rich Fitter. You'll see lots of pictures of otters. Otters and obscure bands from the 70s. And then I also have Fitter Tactical Strength is my business Facebook page.
Awesome. This was such an awesome podcast today. We went over so much, and I feel like we could talk for another 4 hours.
It was fun. I enjoyed this.
It's awesome. I was pumped to have you on because I knew we'd go in so many different avenues, and I wanted to get to know more about you because I do know you. But like I said, a lot of the stuff I just didn't know. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, we definitely got to have you on. I'm looking over notes here, and I'm like, man, is there more stuff I want to ask? I'm like, it's been 2 hours. let him go. Let him walk away. But
anytime. I mean, it's let me set up shop on the Big Island, and
we got to do that. We got to have him on once he's settled in Hawaii.
Yeah,
because that way, once you're settled in, and we can keep everybody updated, and we could talk. I want to get into some because you referred a couple of books to me too, just on programming, stuff like that. And I want to nerd out with you a little bit on a podcast too, and just talk about some of that stuff as well.
Absolutely.
Real quick, I remember going to McDonald's. One of the books you did give me, I forgot that it was the Principles of something. It's actually in the other room, but it got into like talking about setting volume, frequency, intensity. But each chapter was like deep into it. And it's funny because I read that then, and I'm like, this is a lot of information. Now when I look at it, I'm like, oh, I get it. Like I get what they're saying. It's just interesting how you mature through the years if you continue with your education and understand things and develop a better understanding, how you can apply it and things start making more sense. So thank you.
No worries. I mean, it's I'm kind of driving my wife crazy because we're doing all this packing, and I have like 3 bookshelves of nothing but like training manuals and certification textbooks and just books that I've acquired. And she's like, are you going to take all of those? I'm like, well, yeah, because
yeah. And it's like I said, my wife's like, not my wife so much, but when people ask me like, what's your idea of a mellow out day? And I'm like, my books, a dry erase board, and a Starbucks coffee. I'm good. Give me some 90s R&B music and leave me alone for a few hours. So let me just start working in here.
But again, that's the passion. That's after however many years you've been doing this, you're still hungry. You're both still very hungry for, finding out more stuff and growing. Whereas, I've talked to trainers that have been doing it for like 3 or 4 years, and I'm like, oh, I'm burned out on this. Okay, well, then it was probably never really your passion, and that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It's just our hobby is our passion, is our job, and it just you're always trying to learn more and more, and that's why we've been out for 2 hours, because when you get on with people that you can vibe with, and you're like, oh, what's this? It feels like 5 minutes. This is awesome. So, well, thank you so much, Beth and myself. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're definitely going to catch up again. So thank you everybody out there for tuning in. We're going to cut it off at the 2-hour mark, and we'll be on till midnight. So Rich, we'll catch up with you soon. And thank you so much for being on the podcast with us.
Thank you. Thank you both for having me. Thank you so much.
Awesome. We'll catch up with everybody soon.
Okay.
Bye.
I'll talk to you. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.